So, anyway.
We're British, if you haven't noticed. And if you've been watching our channel for a little while, we are from London.
Yes.
You all know that. And we have 4 kids. And this week, or the last couple of weeks, our whole country has been in a state of mourning. We've had an official 10 days of mourning. And obviously the royal family is still in mourning because the Queen died, which is pretty weird.
Well, you think about someone that's been not just the head of state, but so imprinted in our lives for 70 years. I mean, it's longer than we've been alive. So our whole life, the Queen has been present as a queen.
Yeah.
On all the money,
everything,
on the
everywhere.
passports, on all of the post boxes.
The police's helmets.
Yeah.
Just her stuff is everywhere. So our whole country's been in a state of mourning and in grief. And we've sort of found it's to sort of caused us differently to react, how we've responded to the situation and the events and like the Queen's funeral and all of that kind of stuff. We've reacted to it differently.
Yeah.
And it kind of made us think about, it made me think about when my mum passed away about 9 years ago now, about how sort of we dealt with that. We hadn't been married for very long. Our eldest was a year and a half-ish old. And, so we thought we'd just share some practical ways that we found through like the Queen passing, but also in just our experience personally, how to help your spouse through grief.
Yeah. I mean, none of it's fun.
Yeah, I think that's just the thing to also remember. It doesn't it's not a nice time.
It's not a nice time, but well, you can grow together through grief. That's one thing. And also, I suppose you can take it as a given that when going through some kind of grief, it doesn't just bond you, does it? It also, you learn about that person as well, because hopefully grief is a rare thing.
Yeah, I think one of the things that has helped us is that, or helped me, like when my mum passed, is that he just listened to all my stories of my mum and multiple times, the same story on repeat sometimes. On repeat. And I think that is part of grief. When you lose somebody, you remember stuff, and then maybe like a month or two later, you remember the same thing, and you want to share that thing again. And so I think one of the ways that you can help your spouse through grief is just sort of by listening to the story and practice some patience. It's fruit of the spirit, so let's try and reap that. And just sort of like listen to it and don't be like, you already told me.
Man.
Like I can't. If that would just be so harsh and that
unwise. It would be unwise.
So so practice some patience and like just listen to the stories, even if the stories are on repeat.
So another one is communication isn't just about talking, and really it connects to the patience of listening. So it allows the other person to communicate, but also communication can be as small as being with the person and just letting them somehow know that you're available and ready to listen or ready to talk or to give a thought if it's required. It's not that you have to actually say something. It's not that you have to do necessarily anything. It could just be literally being around with a caring thought, right?
I think it sounds a bit cliche, but just be there.
Oh, I hate that phrase.
Yeah, I know, but I remember like when my mum died. So my mum had been ill for quite some time, but when she died, I got a phone call from the hospital at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and so obviously I was not going to go to work, but you took a day off from work, which his job is really nice about, but. Like he was all the stuff about having to go to the hospital and deal with all that stuff. I mean, my dad and my brother were there, but he didn't do anything. He was just sort of was there.
I just basically backed off and let you be with your brother and your dad.
But being there and not having to think, you have to say something or whatever, it was just sort of really comforting. And for all the cliche of being there, it helps. It really does help in our experience.
Well, especially if you're already married, then you're more and more hopefully grounding yourself to the other person as well. So then, you know, we have to be a bit careful that we don't become so dependent on the other person that it becomes a difficult mistake, but you're cleaving to them. So then surely if I was around, even if I wasn't doing anything, I don't think I did anything except drive you there. And I didn't say anything much because what are you supposed to say? But also it was a private moment really for the three of you. What else can you do? So you just be around. That's, you know.
Yeah, and I think that being Christian, like, you don't always have to say things anyway. Is like another tip is just pray for them.
Yeah.
But not like the sort of vague Christian prayer, Lord bless them.
Oh, I'll pray for you.
Yeah, just like actually pray, not just I'll pray for you, but like actually pray, but like specific prayers about their grief.
Yeah.
Wherever that's comfort or Lord, please help me to do the right thing, to be able to be there for the person or to say the right thing, give me wisdom, or even that kind of thing. Prayer for how to handle the situation, prayer for the funeral, prayer for, you know, the months and the years afterwards.
Pray for your own patience level. That you also, I know that also could sound a bit selfish. I appreciate that one, but at the end of the day, some people are just not patient by default. So you know.
Yeah, so I think prayer is it is a big one. It's not like an add-on, and I mean it was like the third one we've said, but like it is a thing that it says pray without ceasing. And that should apply to your spouse as well. Like, you should pray for your spouse, and when they're going through grief, that is something that you should bring before the Lord in a specific way, not just Lord bless them, because let's have some minds on our prayers.
Yeah, exactly. But I think as well, it's not just about praying for them right now, but it's like praying for for example, their mental safety. Upcoming.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time with grief comes a lot of other things like guilt, for example.
That or like trauma, like depending on how the person's passed away, it can be quite traumatic.
Yeah. So that's, you know, we should be praying all the time anyhow. Then that doesn't mean that we have to be sort of in our closet praying. We can be at work doing our normal stuff, but up here we can be praying and talking to the Lord and getting the inspiration for the next thing, whatever it is. And that also praying that God will extend his hand of help to the person who is currently in grief, for example.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, next to praying is also being a good Christian witness, right? Don't just quote random verses at people, you know.
Christian, like if you're honest with yourself, everybody knows a Christian who just loves to quote random verses at you, and you're just like, thanks.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody can sort of use scriptures to whatever end they want, really. Like, for example, someone's going through grief, so you say, "The Lord is your shepherd; you shall not want."
Thanks. Yes. And now that is quite. It is a delicate balance because
it's true.
Yeah, it's true, and
but at the same time, it's maybe not the right time. It might just be a good idea to connect it with, you know, number 2, which is communication isn't necessarily about talking, right? Show them kindness in action, right? Not just like it goes alongside the "I'll pray for you" type of stuff, right? Where you say, "Oh, let me listen. If in case you've forgotten, I'll quote this random verse to you and be comforted."
Yeah,
that doesn't fit, does it? In other words, do the comforting thing.
Yeah.
Make them a cup of tea. Sit next to them. Ask how their day went about other stuff, not about how you're doing about this problematic grief thing or whatever. Maybe you could ask, how was work today? And ask other stuff, for example. So you're being interested in them alongside the grief as well.
I think as being married, you should really know each other.
You should.
And for some people, having verses, they do find it very comforting. So we're not saying don't quote the Bible at all. That's sort of counterintuitive to like being a Christian. But it's doing it with
out.
But it's also being it with discernment and not just sort of like, oh well, someone died, I feel really awkward, so trust and obey. And it's like, thanks. So have discernment, and quotes, like tell people scriptures, or even when you write a sympathy card, although write a sympathy card to your spouse.
That's actually kind of a cool idea, I think. I like that idea.
But
because it means that you mean it. You're thinking about it.
Yeah, but be meaningful. Don't just quote scriptures because you personally feel awkward.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Try to be involved in the process as well.
Yeah,
I think.
So grief does affect people in different ways, and just because you personally have maybe experienced grief one way does not mean your spouse will feel it in the same way. Like with the Queen, we took our children up to near the palace, and they laid flowers down with there were thousands of other people.
Thousands of people.
So busy. But and it was important for them to be a part of that, and for us to be a part of that. But at the time also, I was reading messages that people had written and comments and thank yous and stuff like that. And for me, it was really moving. But it wasn't the same sort of situation in that scenario for Erin. Even during the funeral, when we were watching it on TV, people react differently to different things.
It's not that I don't value the Queen, ladies and gentlemen. It's not anything like that. It's just that there's more of a disconnection, I suppose, for me. But at another time, okay, I'll tell you one thing that did move me, or two things. Okay, someone they put a sandwich up by one of the things, and it said a little note that said "for later."
Yeah.
And it's moving to me because I'm conscious that she does have a later.
Yeah.
I believe that the Queen was a Christian, and I do believe that she went to heaven. So therefore, for later means something. And the other one that was also poignant was the "rest in peace, thou good and faithful servant." That's quite that gives me something to feel about. However, there was a lot of people there, and it can be, to me, it was distracting to have so many people.
But it's even in obviously dealing with the death of the Queen in the morning, it's slightly different from your spouse. Them going through like immediate grief, but
that said, you did feel a kind of oppressing
when the Queen died. But I think it's that recognizing that just because you experience grief in some way does not mean your spouse is going to be exactly the same as you. And it's sort of going back to the first point, it's having patience with that, and sort of just accepting that is a fact. People deal with grief in so many different ways, and it's not going to always be like the 5 stages of grief in a perfect order and let's have this nice, often it's just messy.
Yeah, you've had 2 days of that now. Can you go to the next stage, please? It doesn't work like that.
So
patience is key.
It is really key. And I mean, my mum passed away 9 years ago now, and it still hits me sometimes. I'll be fine, and then it's like, bam! Wow, my mum's died. That sucks.
And some random time when we're driving in the car, and you'll notice something, I don't know what, and then
so it's when you're dealing with your spouse through grief, it's recognizing it's not just the immediate 2 months after. The month leading up to the funeral, or the funeral, or like a month later.
It's on repeat sometimes.
It's on repeat, and just have patience with each other, because you are there. So you're supposed to be a helpmeet to each other. You're not. You're supposed to be partners.
And neither of you are robots. No. You don't work to a tight schedule of, okay, you've had enough time for this now, and then it doesn't. We're squidgy, messy beings. We are.
And we're designed with emotions.
Yeah.
We are British, but there's only a certain amount of stiff upper lip that you can actually do. So, and with that, we are going to close. And we hope that these tips have been helpful for you. And do check out the other videos on our YouTube channel in the description below.
Excellent.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Toodaloo. Bye.
Bye.